Hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law, where we learn through the misfortunes of others. As always, I hope you'll enjoy this live legal educational content as we climb towards 50,000 subscribers, and today may be the day I earn your subscription. For today's story, we are covering a situation involving a plastic surgeon who may not be all they are professionally cracked up to be, or perhaps it's just sour grapes. And that's part of what we're going to decide, at least in part, today. This is the ongoing case of Aryan Movlov, and a person who is an MD, a plastic surgeon, versus Chalene Johnson, who is an influencer in beauty space and workout space and nutrition space, and also is an entrepreneur. So we're going to be covering this case. So basically, Ms. Johnson had some plastic surgery. Now, she doesn't have any real complaints about the surgery itself, but she does have some complaints about how she was treated both before and after the surgery. Believes the doctor acted inappropriately and believes that she's uncovered evidence that the doctor is also known to other patients for acting improperly. So she went on a podcast and expressed all this. The doctor sent a cease and desist. The podcast took it down, and then she basically recreated the podcast or the substance of it on her own channel. And a link to that is in the description below if you want to go check out her statement on the whole issue. So we're going to review this. Now, as always, for people who might be new to the channel, I review this as a judge would review it. So that means I don't have any external knowledge beyond what's in the complaint or what's in these documents, because a judge wouldn't either. They're not supposed to, right? They only know what they're going to learn. So we can only know what's in the documents. And the other thing is, all else being equal, although it's not necessarily equal, but all else being equal, we tend to interpret against the person who is writing the document. The reason being that we know the person writing the document is trying to make themselves look good. So when we look for opportunities to see parts that look weak. But of course, if there's some strong points or strong looking points, we'll acknowledge those too. So those are sort of the ground rules going into this, just to make sure that everyone's clear on that. So let's get started. This is in the Superior Court of the State of Pennsylvania, the County of Orange, versus Aryan Movlov versus Chalene Johnson. This is an amended complaint for defamation, false light, intentional infliction of emotional distress, interference with prospective advantage, and harassment. So defamation and basically harassment. So basically defamation, really boiling it down. But let's see what our friend writes and see how good the complaint really is. Give me 1 second because I need to readjust the borders. I thought I checked it and apparently not. Great. Let's read what it has to say. California. Did I say Pennsylvania? Did I say Pennsylvania somewhere in there? California. It's on the page. Anyways, I have no memory of that, but we'll take your word for it collectively. Anyways, this is an unfortunate case where a social media personality, Ms. Johnson, under the guise of helping others, has weaponized her marketing experience and social platform of 700,000 followers by exploiting a falsified medical experience with the plaintiff, Dr. Molavi, for her own financial gain and notoriety. With the goal of destroying Dr. Molavi's career, despite having an admittedly successful surgery. She's not upset about the surgery itself. It's what happened before or after. Johnson, according to the doctor, because this is written by him, has become obsessed with Dr. Molavi's practice of medicine and utilizing a false, sensationalist version of events, which she exaggerates and progressively changes with contradiction to keep creating new social content for her public platform and podcast. So we see here that this is not necessarily completely false right away. We see this in the language. He says the word false, but then he also says it's sensationalized, which implies it might be rooted in truth. He also says she exaggerates, which implies it's rooted in truth. You can't exaggerate something that isn't at least partially true. That's the whole point of exaggerating. You take what's true and you oversell it, which might itself be a problem. But his own language is saying, hey, there might be some truth to this. It might be sensationalized, it might be exaggerated, she might be changing it, but it might nevertheless be based on some sort of factual reality. So we're seeing some potential problems in the way the language is being phrased, or the way we might interpret things. Indeed, Johnson, a self-described marketing expert, must have quickly realized her online presence for an entire year peaked between August 15th and the 21st. I mean, how would she, what? Her online presence for the entire year peaked in that time period? That's a very strange thing for her to notice. How would she notice that? How would she know that she had peaked for the year in August? She wouldn't know that. She would know that she's at an all-time high, but she wouldn't know that she's peaked. That seems odd to me. The exact period of time she began defaming the doctor on her social platforms and podcast, with the #1 Google search result being her podcast about her surgery. As such, continuing her online attacks on the doctor was proving to be great for business. Okay. Unsurprisingly then, Johnson escalated her online attacks against the doctor from September through October, which, is just 2 months. It's not like a huge period of time. Adding more defamatory and sensationalist allegations against him, all of which are false and misleading. In between these attacks, which have generated high views and increased her follower base, Johnson has strategically promoted her podcast, which, she would anyway. She has 700,000 subscribers. I would imagine she's promoting it anyway, yeah. Marketing courses and offerings, and even sleep supplemental products she's selling. I'm assuming this is not necessarily new for her. Such marketing and sales tactics are not obvious to followers, who become emotionally invested in the falsity Johnson is asserting about the doctor. While these manipulations have been profitable to defendants, they've resulted in the doctor's entire career and livelihood being damaged by someone who's crowned herself judge, jury, and executioner with a secret, improper motive. So that would be the tortious interference, right? That would be the interference, right? We need to show, in order to get to interference with business advantage, we need to show that she's committing a tort, or otherwise has some improper motive for doing it. Namely, enriching herself will be the normal go-to, or just ruining her business. So if they're competitors, right? So she is trying to enrich her. So if they're competitors, it's like I'm falsely accusing them to make my business, to gain a competitive advantage. And even if they're not competitors, I'm just ruining them to make myself look better in some way, right? They're not a competitor of mine, but somehow by diminishing them, I elevate myself and increase my market share, which he says has happened in reality, which, who knows? But that's the idea, right? She has an improper motive. That would be the tortious interference. Her reason for doing it is not only that it's false, it is to gain some sort of unfair market advantage in some way. Okay. To make the matters worse, since the initial filing of this action, this is the first amended complaint, incidentally, Johnson has escalated her attacks against the doctor, his wife, and staff, targeting them directly, inciting her followers to act against him by, among other things, identifying his wife and employees by names, and photographing as well as publicizing his business address, phone, and office. Well, let's take a look at the caption again. The person suing is the doctor and the clinic, but his wife isn't named as a plaintiff. I don't know if she has her own complaint or something, but it's notable. He's saying my wife has been harmed in some way, but his wife is not a named party in this complaint. So that's kind of notable to my mind, at least. Such repetitive harassing acts have resulted in the doctor receiving a death threat and countless harassing, degrading, threatening, and offensive messages and communications that have caused him severe emotional distress. So if, again, this is false, right? If it's false, then this might be predictable, and so she might be on the hook for it. But of course, it requires it to be false. That's kind of why I said earlier, it sort of all pins on the defamation, right? It pins on the defamation. If she's making these statements, it's reasonably predictable it would cause emotional distress. If she's making these statements, it's reasonably predictable. Well, not necessarily that, but it might be for the motive of unfair advantage, right? But it kind of all pins on the underlying defamation. If the defamation falls, it kind of all has problems. So that's sort of what I see, the way I think about that, at least to my mind. The doctor, and remind you, this is written by the doctor, is a board-certified, successful plastic surgeon sought after by patients all over the country. The doctor has built a superb career spanning 17 years, is known and respected for his reconstructive, high-definition surgeries, and responsible for training dozens of other physicians in this innovative field. The defendant, Johnson, sought out the doctor's care in July of 2021 and elected to undergo plastic surgery with him. Johnson's surgery was conducted without complication, and she raved about the procedure, stating publicly, "I'm quite happy with the results." That does seem to be true. That seems to be true even as of today. She's not unhappy with the actual results. Despite this, Johnson then began, which also somewhat raises some credence, at least in my mind, to the other accusations, right? Because if she was upset about the surgery, right? If she was upset about the botched surgery, it would make it a lot easier to say, well, she's just making these statements because, she's upset about the surgery, and why not throw in some other crap too, just to additionally hurt him, right? She's really upset about the surgery, and this other stuff didn't really happen, or it's massively exaggerated. So it make it a lot more easy to be skeptical of those statements, like, oh, it's really the surgery that's at issue. But it's not the surgery that's at issue. She doesn't have any problems with it, so she doesn't have any motive in that way to make the statements against him. What would her motive be? What would be her motive to lie? She's happy with the surgery, so what motive would she have to lie is not immediately obvious, right? So it gives a little additional credibility, I think, that's the case here. Despite this, Johnson began utilizing her monetized social media accounts and her for-profit podcast to launch a media smear campaign against the doctor and his practice. In doing so, and under the guise of helping others, all while furthering her social business at the expense of the doctor's livelihood, Johnson has single-handedly spread false, defamatory, misleading, and damaging information about the doctor and his practice to her online followers through multiple defamatory postings and statements, which have caused him, his family, his staff, and his patients to be bullied, harassed, and threatened on a regular basis. Again, this is all kind of coming down to the degree to which this stuff is true. Also, why are the patients being bullied? They would be blameless victims. It's unclear. Defendants' acts have only now escalated to dangerous levels. Well, it's like this, basically all contemporaneous, but whatever. Defendants' acts have only now escalated to dangerous levels and resulted in threats and harassment where now the doctor and his family and staff fear for their lives. It feels like it might be a step much. Johnson has also interfered with patient care, and her defamatory conduct has directly damaged the doctor's practice, and as current and potential patients have canceled their procedures or treatments believing them to be false and heinous allegations. So, that could definitely show business harm, goes to show damages and a potential action if we get to the underlying action. Johnson has ignored the doctor's invitation to discuss and sort through her concerns and elected instead to exploit his silence and patience, revealing her true motivation. I don't buy that one. There's any number of reasons she might not want to talk to her, not the least of reasons that she might be concerned about undue pressure being put on her, trying to be gaslit, like this isn't really what happened to you, right? You're falsely remembering or stuff. Like she has concerns, like, and so she's like, she doesn't want anything more to do with him. So there might be a bunch of pragmatic concerns. And then again, she might not be remembering properly, right? So, I mean, we don't know. We don't know the degree to which her memory is accurate or to which degree there's evidence to support it. So, we'll just keep our thought hat on and try to look for things and see how credible it sounds as we go on, I guess. The team Johnson and the LLC and the Incorporated, which operate and distribute the podcast, have directly benefited from the distribution of at least 4 defamatory and misleading podcast episodes. So I was incorrect. I thought it was just the one, but apparently it's 4 of them. $4.99 from Gospel of Comics. Sing to me, Law Daddy. Merry Christmas, Curse. Well, Merry Christmas to you, my friend, as well. I hope everyone out there has a Merry Christmas. The deplorable behavior of defendants who are monetizing their social presence at the expense of Dr. Malavi cannot go unchecked. Defendants' defamatory media campaign intend to destroy the doctor's entire livelihood is the very definition of defamation per se. Attacking someone's career or profession is defamatory per se. He's right. Johnson's, of course, that requires it to be defamation. You just don't have to show damages. Johnson's harassing conduct also threatens health and safety and that of his family and employees. The plaintiffs therefore bring this lawsuit for damages they've suffered and will continue to suffer as a result of this conduct, and to enjoin the defendants from repeating these statements and otherwise continuing the conduct. Okay. So we have a whole bunch of parties and venues, which we will skip. Okay. Johnson pursues the doctor for plastic surgery and is happy with her results. So we're going to start early in time. So we're going to start now. Remember, of course, this is all designed to make him look as good as possible and her look as bad as possible. That's the purpose of it. He's trying to elevate himself and decrease her. That doesn't necessarily mean that anything he's saying is false, right? It does mean that he's going to emphasize everything good and he's going to bury everything bad, or the reverse of it. He's talking about her, right? So everything you can expect everything he says to be true, just not complete in any way. So that's a helpful thing to remember. The doctor holds a Bachelor of Science in Biophysics from the University of California, Berkeley, and a medical degree from the University of California, San Diego School of Medicine. The doctor completed his residency in integrated plastic surgery at the Southern Illinois University School of Medicine. He is certified by the American Board of Plastic Surgery, a fellow of the American College of Surgeons, and a member of the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, which I imagine is fairly typical for someone in his field, although I couldn't say for sure. The doctor is also a successful author, having authored high-definition liposuction, and frequently trains other physicians in high-definition cosmetic surgery techniques. The doctor maintains his practice at the Cosmetic Plastic Surgery Institute in Laguna Beach, California. He is known for performing complex surgeries, often revision surgeries. The doctor has never been found liable for any medical malpractice or ever disciplined by the board. Okay. In fact, now notice he doesn't say that there's never been a complaint against him by the board, on the board. Just say he's never been disciplined. He doesn't say he's never received a complaint, which it isn't atypical for a doctor to receive complaints, but still, he's not saying that, right? In fact, prior to defendant's wrongful conduct at issue, the doctor maintained a nearly perfect record nearly perfect rating on online patient review sites, including Yelp, RealSelf, and Google. The defendant sought out the doctor for the purposes of receiving his medical care. On or about July 7th, Johnson had a consultation with the doctor about types of procedures she wanted to have and discuss risks. Johnson was advised of the inherent risk from plastic surgery and the need for postoperative care. She did not voice any concerns to the doctor or any of his staff. On or about July the 20th, Johnson returned for another meeting with a doctor at his offices in preparation for her upcoming elective surgery. During this appointment, Johnson's surgical plan was solidified. Johnson appeared comfortable and looking forward to her procedure. She did not voice any concerns about the doctor or other staff. So, although I'm not an expert on HIPAA by any means, it seems, at least to my mind, that it's carefully tailored to reveal only what would be readily apparent, without revealing medical details, like what exactly is the surgery. He's not at least saying that up to this point, right? Also, it's not relevant to her concern because she's happy with the surgery. But she says that she had the surgery. She said that she had the surgery and she's happy with it, right? So that's not revealing any medical information. It's information she's all revealed, so it's no longer protected. So he's saying, yeah, you came to my clinic, we did the surgery, we advised you of the options, right? So it seems to be within the line of HIPAA, in case anyone was wondering. Okay. So the plan was solidified on July the 20th. She did not voice any concerns to the doctor. at the time, or staff. On or about August the 2nd, Johnson came in again to the doctor's office, this time for agreed-upon surgery to be performed. Prior to surgery, the doctor, along with his operating team, prepared Johnson for the surgery, which included marking the body for intended incisions as a standard practice, which, you know, I've seen this done on medical shows, so yeah, yep. Given the location of Johnson's 2 intended procedures, Johnson had to undress for the marking and surgery procedures. Okay. The surgery was conducted with proper care and was completed without complication. Okay. I mean, that might very well be true. I would imagine certain procedures require you to disrobe more than others. You know, fine. About a week after the surgery, on or about August the 7th, Johnson took to her Instagram account, of which she boasts more than 700,000 followers and monetizes content, to post a photo of herself smiling with a thumbs up and a caption that informed her followers she was home recuperating from elective cosmetic surgery. So there she is, breaching her own confidentiality. So, you know, there you go as to the doctor's concerned. She invited viewers to go to her podcast where she provided more information. On August the 11th, the defendant disseminated a teaser, short podcast episode titled Plastic Surgery Abuse, where Johnson further informed her fans and listeners about her surgery, stating, "I don't have any complications. In fact, I'm quite happy with the results." She then proceeded to state that she is instead unhappy with the experience and had recorded a longer episode with more detail. In this episode, Johnson states that several people on Instagram asked her to confirm which doctor it was and said, "I would confirm that it was the doctor." She stated that she had a responsibility to contact the doctor's office and they've taken it seriously and were coming to her house to address her concerns. That's interesting. So she says that she contacted the doctor and said that they were going to come to her concerns, but the doctor said we offered ourselves and that she wouldn't meet. So maybe this is a false statement right here because it conflicts with what the doctor was saying. She said that she contacted the doctor's office and that they were coming to her house. They say that they offered and she didn't take them up on it. So there's a contradiction. False statement of fact? Maybe. She states she was going to pause her public discussion because I've shared so much I could probably get myself into trouble. Only if it's false, my friend. Only if it's false. As to your medical information, right? HIPAA doesn't apply to you. If you're the patient, HIPAA does not apply to you. You have absolute right to disclose as much of your medical information as you want to. HIPAA doesn't bind you. Go nuts. Johnson's concern appeared to be that during her post-operative care with the massage therapist from the doctor's practice, she requested new body foam, which had been custom-made and fitted to her prior to her surgery, and felt that the therapist denied this request. Okay. Upon notice of the request, however, the doctor and his team went to Johnson's home for an in-home visit and provided her this new foam. The visit went smoothly as Johnson appeared very pleased from the procedure and the care she was receiving. So they did go to the home, and apparently her concern at that point was limited to some sort of body foam, which I don't even know what that is, but whatever. In the sudden turn of events, days later on the 13th, defendants released a full-length podcast titled Life for Update, My Plastic Surgery Nightmare, where Johnson proceeded to describe her plastic surgery experience in a manner different from that how she had before. I mean, you know, fair. I mean, there, you have to note these things, right? I mean, there's like, on this earlier podcast, she talked about issues, but why not those issues? In her Instagram, she was talking about her surgery, but not these issues, right? Why was she not raising those issues earlier? Right? Now, there could be reasons that you can think of, but like, why was she so pleased at the surgery, but not mentioning these horror show things? It seems a little disconnected. Something has to be explained to a jury someday. Right? It's like, why not that? Why then and not now? And there might be explanations, but it raises questions. Specifically, Johnson falsely and maliciously implied the doctor somehow had negative reviews removed, which I don't know how she would know that she was unnecessarily told to, and that she did not like his bedside manner and personality. Okay. I mean, you need more than that to find defamation, which I'm sure we're going to get. In this podcast, Johnson still maintained, though, she was not making any accusations, reiterating, I'm happy with my results. I don't have any complications. I seem to be healing well. I'm not taking issues with my results and my doctor. Okay, so she's happy with the results. And in this podcast, she apparently said that he had negative comments removed, that she was unnecessarily told to undress, and she didn't like his bedside manner. I mean, if that was the brunt of it, that's a long way from defamation, at least in my opinion, right? I mean, she might not know what is necessary or not, but defamation for that? I don't know. But I'm sure maybe it gets worse. On or about the same day, Johnson took to the Yelp page to provide a negative 1-star review. In the review, Johnson again admitted, I do not have complications and do not have a problem with my results. And my current surgeon taking over post-operative care says like the work was done is satisfactory. Despite these good results, however, Johnson proceeds to trash the doctor, writing the following. The doctor was quick to tell me that my ass needed a lot of work. Well, I mean, were you there to have stuff done on your ass? I mean, I don't know, but is that the reason you went, to have your ass worked on? If he says, in sort of a joking manner, yeah, your ass needs a lot of work, maybe not the most professional, but a little joke to relieve the tension, maybe. Okay. Aggressively grabbed onto my C-section scar. I wouldn't know for sure because I've never been to a plastic surgeon, but I would imagine when they're, having to touch you and having to grab parts of your skin, for example, to see, how much skin there is or how much fat or how much, there is there, that they might have to grab it somewhat aggressively to be able to feel that. So, I mean, that seems plausible. Has absolutely zero respect for women's modesty or dignity. He constantly orders you to get naked. Constantly? Really? And I mean, I've been to doctors and they've told me to get naked before. So, and I haven't gotten any surgery done. Or they've asked me to strip down to my underwear. So I don't know how weird that is, to be quite honest. I requested new surgical foam and was denied. All right. Unsurprisingly, Johnson then invited Yelp readers to her podcast, which defendants just released for so much more detail about her experience. Yeah. There's something's. Each of Yelp statements were false, yet more than 11,000 Yelp users have seen and marked this, containing it useful. The doctor responded to each of the statements, acknowledging her satisfaction with the procedure, claiming she did receive this new foam, and alerting her that the use of extensive media following to build engagement at the expense of him, his family, and career was damaging him. I mean, if that was her motive, which, difficult to prove. Although, of course, motive can be inferred from the act if you're the jury, but it's difficult to prove otherwise. Although, of course, the standard in civil is just more likely than not, so... Johnson neither responded nor stopped this outlandish conduct. At least to my mind so far, it doesn't sound particularly outlandish, but, I mean, in the grand scheme, right? I've seen a lot of Yelp reviews, and I've seen a lot of people, and in the grand scheme of, outlandish, I'm not sure we're at outlandish territory. He grabbed my skin kind of aggressively. He told me to get naked sometimes. And he told me that my ass needed work. Was that the reason you were there? Was he agreeing with you? Is it at all possible that you said, my ass needs a lot of work, and then he just echoed back, yeah, your ass needs a lot of work? Is that a thing that might have happened, just out of raw curiosity? 2 days later, Johnson posted on her Instagram account a series of posts titled An Open Letter to My Plastic Surgery, where she claimed the doctor ordered female patients to get naked when it's not necessary, I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, dear, but how would you know if it's necessary or not? And again, at least in my experience, I've been to doctors who tell me to get down to my underwear, and you're getting plastic surgery done, so it might be necessary to see more than that. It doesn't sound, especially if, you know, you're having your butt worked on, it might be necessary to get naked. I'm just, you know, shooting in the dark here. Not a plastic surgeon, not a doctor of any kind. I'm just, you know, running it in my head and thinking to myself, what sounds reasonable? You know, I groped a woman's body and suggested she needs additional surgery. By groped, do you mean that do you by grope mean that he grabbed onto parts of your body to see what they felt like as part of a determination of like how loose your skin was or how much fat there was, or trying to get an idea from his years of experience by, you know, having done many, many surgeries? Maybe he's feeling for, you know, some sort of medical purpose. I mean, we don't have to think about it too hard to think about it, do we, in the case of plastic surgery? Now, of course, this isn't to say that it's proper. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it isn't. It is proper. I don't know. Because again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a plastic surgeon. I just can imagine there's reasons that this might be done. Maybe it was over the line. I don't know. Maybe not. But so far, nothing she's saying strikes me as like patently absurd. Paraded post-operative patients in pain on painkillers fully nude and invited other staff or clinical consults to view them with no right. Okay, first of all, you and I have a very different definition of paraded. Usually when someone is being paraded, it requires them like moving, like, you know, as in a parade, right? Moving from place to place. And okay, so she's post-op. She's post-op. And he wants to look at you fully nude. Why might he want to do that? How hard it is up for us to just using our common sense think of reasons he might want to do that. You know, of course you're on painkillers, you're post-op, but he wants to see it as soon as possible. Why might he want to see it as soon as possible? I mean, how hard do we have to think about it? Not that hard, right? And he's inviting other staff, and now he says client consults. He says client consults. Now, if clients were brought in without her consent, that poses a potential issue. If client consults were brought in, which is one thing she says, if other clients were brought in. Now, the question is, was she asked? Right? Did he ask her? It's like, do you mind if I bring in other patients? And did she say yes or not? And she'll probably say, well, I felt pressured to say yes, but you said yes. Right? It's like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't feel comfortable with it. Or yes, I don't, that's fine. Like, which of those did you say? Did you consent? I mean, did you consent? I don't know. Maybe you did. And as for other staff coming in, why might the other staff be there? Let's think about it real hard. Why might other medical staff be there in the room? Maybe it's specific. I mean, I couldn't say for sure, but maybe it's specifically to make sure there's someone else there to back anything that he does to make sure it's okay. Maybe he has an assistant in the room the entire time just for the purpose of making sure that he's never accused of anything, right? It's just like, yep, I was there the entire time and I saw it. I mean, I don't know that's what's going on. Maybe that's it. Or maybe it's to show the staff things that need to be attended to in follow-up treatment. Or maybe it's as a teaching tool to the staff, or maybe 3,000 other reasons you and I can generate in our minds, right? But if other clients were brought in there without consent, we might have a problem. But did she consent? Denied sterile dressing change. Really? Now, the question would be why? She was denied a sterile dressing change. Okay. Let's assume that's true. Can we think of a reason why that might be true? Again, we don't have to think about it too hard, right? We're just using our small pea-sized non-doctor brains, right? Let's just think about it collectively and use our brains. All right, there's sterile dressing. She wants it to be changed. The doctor says no. Why might the doctor say no? We shouldn't take that hard to think about it, right? The dressing is fine as it is. Removing the dressing or replacing the dressing might cause more problems in this early post-op stage, right? The dressing is there for a reason, as part of the healing process. And if we remove it right now and put other dressing on, it would actually aggravate the problems we're trying to solve. And there's no cause to do it. So maybe not so much with the change of dressing right now. Maybe later, maybe not now. Can we think of medical reasons that we might want to keep the old dressing on? I can. It's not that hard. Use the moment a patient is standing naked being photographed before surgery in a room with 3 men to upsell additional surgeries. Okay, who are these 3 men? Who are these 3 men? Are these 3 men part of your staff? Is the reason the 3 men are there are because they're some of the surgeons who might be helping them? Or are they nurses? Or other support staff? Or maybe they're getting trained in some way. Now, why would you take a picture of someone before their plastic surgery? Why would you take a picture of someone, take pictures of someone before their plastic surgery? Geez, I wonder why. Why would you want to do that? Geez, let me think about it real hard. Real hard. You know, why are these other men in the room? Let me think about it real hard. You know? I'm sure it's not the first time they've seen a naked woman. They're medical professionals. They do this literally all the time. They probably don't care. And upsell additional surgeries, though, it does appear to be a false statement because he says the treatments were locked in. Now, whether or not they were talking about surgeries to maybe be conducted in the future, right? These might be surgeries, but they're not going to do it now, right? These are just, in addition, like, here's some things that you might want to do in the future, right? Just as an FYI. You know, it wouldn't, I mean, have you ever been to a doctor ever in your life? Have you ever been to a doctor for one reason? And suddenly the doctor starts talking about other things other than the reason you were there? Whoa, let me tell you, I've had that experience. I've been there for one thing and the doctor says, hey, by the way, I noticed some other issues that you might want to be attended to. Have you ever had that happen? I've had that happen. And on surgery day, when they're taking these photos and the other people are there and they're consulting, it's like, geez, maybe there's some other issues we could bring to your attention for your future for your future information. Does this sound this weird? Does this sound this strange to you? This does not sound this weird or this strange to me. This sounds kind of normal. Again, never been to a plastic surgeon, couldn't say for sure. Have been to doctor's offices, had somewhat at least comparable experiences. Never with so much with the full body photographs, but I've had photographs taken, you know, for various things, you know, to see progress of, you know, various things, see how it changes over time. You know, I don't know about you, but this sounds, you know, fine to me. But maybe that's because I'm a man. I'm a man, and I don't understand what it's like for a woman getting plastic surgery. I'm just a man who's thinking, yeah, this all sounds completely normal, and I'm just deeply, deeply rooted in the apparent misogyny or something. I don't know. It sounds okay to me, to my mind, but, you know, maybe you guys disagree with me. I don't know. Each of these statements is provably false. First, it is standard medical practice for a patient undressed for examination and marking prior to surgery, as well for maintenance of a sterile environment for sane. Okay, I believe that. A doctor must have the ability to examine the area that's relevant to the surgery and ensure there's not some other condition or scarring near the area that can be problematic. I believe that. I believe that he might have looked at you naked when he was doing his consult. I believe he might have looked at you naked when he was doing his consult to figure out what is possible. And I also believe, and here's a shocker, I also believe he did it the day of the surgery to double check. Second, part of the plastic surgery consultation involves just that, a consultation, whereby the physician examines body and provides an opinion on possible procedures. No shit. No shit, Sherlock, right? It's the patient's prerogative if they elect to proceed with the procedure. Third, the doctor did not grope or parade them in the nude, yet not even by her statement did they parade them. If a patient is seen by a relevant third party, that's following the patient's prior consent. I'm a little bit inclined to believe the doctor on this one. I mean, I'm inclined to give the doctor a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. I have to believe this doctor just not routinely parade other patients into other patients' rooms without getting their consent. Probably more than once, to be quite honest. I'm just going to assume, I'm going to go out on a limb. I could be the wrong limb. Maybe the doctor does this routinely. Maybe he's a bad doctor who's been practicing for 17 years or whatever it is. But I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that, he has his bases covered because, he perhaps is aware of some horror stories and stuff. So, we'll find out, I guess. But, I'm just going to assume it for the second because I'm not finding Miss Johnson's story over here. Well, first of all, even if I found it credible, I don't find it that alarming. Fourth, the doctor could not possibly have tried to upsell additional surgeries before surgery because the scope, plan, and surgical procedure for each patient is finalized on a different day and not all during surgery. I believe that for damn sure. Can you imagine, except like in emergency care or something where like the surgeon is basically working on you because you came in the door after a motorcycle accident or some shit? Can you imagine a surgery where they don't come into you with a plan? Can you imagine, hey, did you think about me just doing some additional tweaks? As long as I'm here, I could do this, this, and this. Do you think that sounds like a conversation about something that's going to happen on the day of surgery? Because that sounds like some bullshit to me. That sounds like some bullshit. For things maybe in the future, yeah. But we're going to alter the surgery today? That sounds like some bullshit to me. That does not sound like a thing that happened. Finally, Johnson was given multiple sterile pieces, and the sanitary sterile nature of the treatment provided evidence of the fact she has no complications with healing. Fine. Yeah, sometimes they do remove a leg when you're supposed to have kidney stones. Yeah, not to say that medical malpractice doesn't happen and mistakes don't happen, because they do, and they're legendary. And I think last time I checked, medical mistake is something like the 6th or 7th leading cause of death in the United States. It's not unfrequent. But yeah, I'm going to assume that, I'm going to go on a limb and assume that, everything is fine. To make sure each of her followers knew exactly that her plastic surgeon was the doctor, Johnson commented on her own post directly to Yelp statements, adding, "I've left a review under my doctor's name on Yelp. My review includes photos. This doctor uses a nickname. One is a nickname. The other is the name of his cosmetic practice." From that moment forward, Chalene Johnson's plastic surgery Yelp became a Google search term, with one of the first results being a Reddit page referencing the podcast and the doctor as her doctor. Johnson then continued to incite negative attacks online, further engaging with her followers and publicly commenting, "You can put him on blast. I can't. You should." Okay, that's a problem, right? Because you've just directed it, right? You can't put her on blast. I can't put her on blast, but it's okay for me to direct you to put it on blast. You can put it on blast. You should put it on blast. I can't. Yeah, that's a problem. You have just basically made everyone your agent. Congratulations. Now you have a problem, right? If people just go off on their own and do it, right? You can't be held responsible for what people and listening to you do. You can't be held. I can't be held responsible for what people, in this chat do or in the comments do. That's impossible. I have 46,000 or 47,000 subscribers, and with your subscription today, we'll be at 50,000 very, very soon. So I can't possibly control it. But if I direct you, or I suggest a course of action, right? If I suggest a course of action, hey everyone, have you thought about doing this, right? Then I might bear some responsibility. In fact, that to some degree happened in a much less notable way when I, it created a bit of a misunderstanding between me and a fellow creator, because I was trying to do it out of a position of, care. But I directed people to go to her chat and, basically spam her, because it's a thing you do on Twitch, when you're rating somebody. And, it was not appreciated. And that was, my fault, because I was the one who directed it, right? So, I bear some responsibility for that. My heart was in the right place, but it wasn't well received. So, that was an example where, of that. And, if you say you should put this person on blast, you bear some responsibility for that. So, fair enough. The very next day, on or about August the 16th, defendant released a third podcast episode titled Plastic Surgery Nightmare Volume 3, where Johnson continued to repeat and ratify her earlier statements. I mean, again, I maybe it's a Me Too thing. Is it a Me Too thing? Is that the problem? It's like, my plastic surgeon touched me. He took photos of me. Other people were in the room when he did this. And the reaction from people is, he sucks. He sucks. He shouldn't exploit women like that. Is it a Me Too thing, or just people idiots, or what's the problem? Because I read these statements and I'm like, that all sounds pretty normal to me. Sorry you didn't like it that much, but sounds okay. Based on what I'm reading, you're not telling me anything that's like shocking me. Oh yeah, Melanie says, did they cut her too? Yeah, they also cut me with knives, and they smiled while they were doing it. On or about September the 25th, Johnson took to her Instagram account yet again, this time posting photos of what appears to be a partial Excel spreadsheet of background information she was working on that lists by date alleged events that took place relating to the doctor. So she has a bug up her ass for some reason. So maybe it's more, the problem is, I'd say maybe it's more than it sounds like, but we can't make that assumption. Why can't we make that assumption? Because it's the doctor himself writing this, right? We would assume that the doctor and their lawyers are going to come up with the most damning statements, right? So we can't really reasonably assume, or we can't reasonably make the projection, oh, maybe there's things beyond this that she said, that if we heard those things, that would put it all in a new light. We can't make that assumption. And the reason is because the doctor himself is making these claims. If there were more statements that would be more damning, he would tell us, or he's an idiot, and his lawyers are idiots. So we're going to assume this is as bad as it gets because that's the most reasonable assumption. And I'm reading it like, I don't know what all these people are bitching about. Sounds okay to me. So I don't know why she has a bug up her ass if these are the most damning issues. How does she think plastic surgery works? I'm not sure. As can be seen from these below screenshot, these range from registrations of his business to traffic incidents and small claims matters. What? First of all, how is traffic incidences even remotely his problem? How are traffic incidences even remotely his issue? It sounds suspiciously like a problem for, the city or the county or something. If they're traffic incidents, how's that his issue? Second of all, he's being sued in small claims. Small claims, I don't know what they are in California, but it's usually a couple $1,000s. Let's say it's $5,000. It's usually something like that, $7,000. You know what you don't go to small claims for? Like massive botches of your surgery. These sound like billing disputes or other small, they literally sound like nickel and dime shit. Small claims? Yeah. Or it's not even about the doctor. It would be it wouldn't necessarily be his patients. It might be vendors who are upset about not being paid on some contract or something. I don't know. In the midst though are multiple references to medical malpractice, as well as a reference to patient surgery accident and patient death. The post also states, do you agree that should be a patient's right to know how many medical malpractice and arbitration cases a surgeon has before going under the knife? I believe that information is available. If you want to look it up, I believe you can look that up. I believe that is public information. Do you believe you have a right to know? I think you do have a right to know. In arbitration cases, this usually start with a lawsuit. So, yeah, I don't know. So these link, these photos, med mal, registered business, traffic infraction, registered business, med mal, traffic infraction, malpractice lawsuit, Secretary of State suspension, Secretary of State, something else, small claim, med mal, traffic, med mal, patient surgery, accident, patient death, small claim. Yeah, most of it's on the state licensing page once there's a formal complaint. Yeah, I would think so. Johnson intentionally or recklessly disregarded the fact that each of these medical malpractice notations were lawsuit allegations which are either defeated by the defense verdict or voluntarily dismissed. She should have said allegation or something. By saying medical malpractice, it reads as though it was medical malpractice, right? And so that's carelessness, as long as that information is readily apparent. So that might be a defamation there, right? She's saying these are medical malpractice complaints when they were in fact defeated or dismissed. So they're not real. So that might be a defamation problem. I don't know why she has a bug up her ass, though. Indeed, in two of them, the doctor was not even served, and so his involvement was peripheral at best. Yet any reasonable viewer would infer from the Instagram post the doctor had committed medical malpractice multiple times. Yes, I agree with the doctor. That would be a reasonable inference. And that he was responsible for patient surgery accident and patient surgery death. Each of these things are patently false. There have been 0 cases where a doctor has been found to have committed medical malpractice. The doctor has also never been found responsible for any patient death or been engaged in a patient surgery accident. Yeah. Unfortunately, Johnson's defamatory and disparaging conduct did not end there. The same day, posted more partial spreadsheet photos referencing Yelp review removals with the caption that read, "So how'd you feel if you had to choose your surgeon based on 5-star reviews?" Only to investigate after the fact that hundreds of negative reviews have been removed from Yelp. Again, if you're looking at Yelp and not looking at like the state licensing page, I'm not sure what your problem is, but you know. And also, like, okay, so here's some. How do you know? Okay, she says this. There's a Yelp negative review followed by health grade negative review followed by health review. Yelp removed 1-star review. Yelp removed 1-star review. Yelp removed 1-star review. Why? How? Was it Yelp or was it him? You know. The posts assume and imply that the doctor intentionally deleted proper, truthful, negative Yelp reviews. Indeed, after the post, doctor received multiple messages from third parties accusing him of this. This is likewise false and misleading. When Johnson intentionally and recklessly omits in her quest to create a false narrative is that Yelp has community guidelines and control, such that postings are removed if they're fraudulent, illegitimate, or not reflective of actual clients. Yet anyone seeing this would understand that doctor is trying to improperly manipulate his ratings. That would be a reasonable inference a person would draw. I agree. A few days later, on September the 29th, Johnson began an outline posting tirade, where she posted on her Instagram account yet again about the doctor multiple times, starting with a video teasing that she's uncovered the sexual misconduct, corruption, medical malpractice, and patient death at the hands of a plastic surgeon. And the victims are coming forward, pleading to her 703,000 followers to repost and share her earlier posts, and thanking those who did for stepping up doing it. This woman is inviting a whole world of pain in terms of liability. This woman is inviting a whole world of pain. She's inviting people to respond. She's creating it. She's responsible for all those posts, by the way, in case you're curious. In case you're curious about CDA 230, right? Right? You're curious about CDA 230. It's like, hey, wait a second. She's not responsible for what someone else posts. She is if she solicits it. That's into CDA 230. If she solicits it, she's responsible. CDA 230 will not save you, my friend. Q Reverve says, rejected sexual advance can't be disclosed by a doctor. You know? Yeah. Well, I don't know if it can or not. I'd have to think about the medical privacy issues in play with that. I don't know if it would or not. I don't know. To be honest. I'm not that much an expert about, because I don't know. I have to think about it. Of course, the doctor's never been responsible for any sexual misconduct or corruption, medical malpractice, or death. Moreover, there's never been a single case where a patient died on the table, rendering the allegations not only provably false, but horribly damaging. So one of the things apparently that our Miss Johnson here said repeatedly was that he had a patient die on the table, which does not appear to be true. It appears like it might be true, and I say this with all the qualifiers in the world, because what do I know? But there's been suggestion that one of his patients might have died a day later in the hospital. Whether or not that's due to him or not, who knows? But he didn't die on the table, so that specific claim appears to be false. Johnson's Instagram tirade continued with clips of her and 2 other women post-operative scars, which conveys that other women developed infections because of the doctor, and she was promised a certain size scar but woke up to something much larger. I find it extremely unlikely a doctor promised you a certain size scar. That doesn't sound like a thing they do, any more than a lawyer would promise you a particular result in a case. The best a lawyer can do is 95%. And even that's a little bit high. If it's my case, the best I can do is 95%. Because you never know, man. You never know. Especially how things might develop down the road that you don't know about. And juries, they can be unpredictable sometimes. But I find it very, very unlikely a doctor said, oh yeah, the scar for sure will be no bigger than this. They promised that result. I don't think so. Not only is this untrue, but contrary to say where she was happy with the results. Yeah, that too. She said she was completely happy with the results, and now she's complaining about the scar size. So yeah, that's a contradiction. I agree. Perhaps most egregious is that at least to 2 points during this tirade, and again on days thereafter, Johnson proceeded to, for the first time, claim sexual misconduct by the doctor and trauma therefrom. Okay, so now she's upping the ante. She's now claiming she is the victim of sexual misconduct. So she wants to Me Too all this shit. So we could at least consider the possibility that these may be false. I know that's a bit of a taboo, but it's at least possible that not every Me Too claim may necessarily be 100% correct. And it appears that, given the timing of this, that this might be something to cloak herself in. Now, maybe it's true. I'm not saying it's not true. What do I know? I'm just a guy reading it, and I'm just a guy looking at the timing. Maybe she didn't mention it earlier because she was embarrassed. Maybe it really did happen. I don't know. I'm just saying that there's suspicions in our mind because she didn't mention this at any point earlier, and she was happy with the surgery, and one would think if there was sexual misconduct, that might somewhat influence her opinion, and so forth and so on, and she might not be there just blatantly saying how great the surgery was, and there's things here that raises questions in our mind. Heaven forbid that we raise any questions about a Me Too claim, but there's at least a little bit reason to be suspicious, I think. The vague accusations of trauma from sexual misconduct leads any reasonable viewer or reader to believe that the doctor is a sexual assaulter who took advantage of his patient. That's what it sounds like. Like other posts, this too is not only contradictory of her prior statements, but patently false. The doctor conducted himself in a professional and appropriate manner, as evidenced by signed declaration under penalty of perjury from the operating nurse, general surgeon, and physician's assistants who were part of the team. Yeah. So these other people who were there, and so now we're learning who these other 3 men might be. These three men, all men. It might be the operating nurse, general surgeon, and physician's assistant. So, might be those people. They were there. Yeah. In a September 29th post caption, Johnson encouraged others not only to write Yelp, Google, and Real Self reviews. Again, she's soliciting it. Section 230 will not save her ass on this. But also continued sharing her postings to spread her defamatory conduct far and wide. The postings which she monetized on her platform. The doctor's Yelp and Google business pages has since been spammed by random third parties, leaving 1-star reviews despite never being a patient. Why does she have such a bug up her ass? Based on her own story, This must be as good as it gets. This must be as good as it gets, because if it got any better, the doctor would mention it, right? Because it would be more defamatory, right? He has no incentive to hide the ball. His incentives are to tell us all the horrible, horrible things she said to make her look bad. That's his incentives. So we can reasonably infer, because it's coming from him and his motivation is to make her look bad, that this is as bad as it gets. If this is as bad as it gets, why does she have such a bug up her ass? They groped me. You mean as they were touching her skin to feel for things? They made me stripped and marked me, which is typical in plastic surgery. They had me stand up in pain after post-op. Yeah. Other people were in the room. Yeah. Why does she have such a huge bug up her ass? What am I missing? What am I missing about this? From her own account. I don't know. The doctor's Yelp and Google business page has since been spammed by random people. She's responsible for all of that. Not fully satisfied with this level of damage, Johnson took to her Instagram account, this time saying, "I'm outraged the surgeon can lose their privileges at multiple hospitals." That's a factual claim. Did he lose his privileges? Patient deaths have dozens of med mal cases, 210 hidden Yelp reviews, and the medical board allows this. Maybe the medical board is smarter than you, dear. It's deception, and plastic surgeons are protected by a very powerful group of lobbyists. This too is false, as doctor has not lost privileges at any hospital. Has not been found responsible for any patient death, has not had dozens of med mal cases, nor has inappropriately hidden Yelp reviews. Where are you coming up with this bullshit? Despite the volume, the tirade does not end. In a podcast episode on or about October the 1st, until breaking my silence, the defendant explicitly names the doctor and proceeds to make the following non-exclusive false and defamatory statements. The doctor created a HIPAA violation by addressing me by my full name and also sharing some of the details of my treatment. When? When did he do this? Was it after you said that you went to the doctor? Was it after you said it so that it wasn't privileged anymore? You do understand that privilege is shattered once you expose the privilege, right? It's not privileged anymore. Like if I'm your attorney and you tell me something in confidence and then you start blabbing it to third parties, that's not privileged anymore. Although it's probably not ideal, I can legally go and blab it to anyone I want because it isn't privileged because of your dumbass. Yeah. Implied the doctor committed sexually inappropriate acts while Johnson was on the operating table by stating her vagina was sore. The doctor's anesthesiologist has 2 DUIs. Why does that matter? Was he drunk that day? Oh, and here's a shocker. Shocker among shockers. Doctors sometimes drink, like lawyers. Lawyers and doctors both have above average normal rates for drug abuse, alcohol abuse, right? So the fact that his anesthesiologist might have 2 DUIs is not particularly shocking, nor is it necessarily inherently suggestive of anything. It might be, it might not. Maybe they're a very good anesthesiologist. Anesthesiologists make a shit ton of money. So, you know, I don't know what it means, but it's like, you know, Oh yeah, the urinary catheter from the surgery can cause pain. I didn't consider that possibility, that she had a urinary catheter. And maybe that's what she was feeling. Didn't consider that possibility. The thing that went through my head is maybe it's just transferred pain from the surgery, right? It's not really in her vagina or around her vagina. It's really just radiating pain from wherever. And she can't tell the difference. You know, yeah. Especially if she's under the influence of some sort of medications. You know, plus the other doctors were there in the room, so, you know, The doctor, while operating a woman, allowed 2 of his surgical techs to perform surgery. Is that okay? And in doing so, these 2, unlicensed professionals, if you want to call them that, created deadly puncture to her organs, which resulted in her basically going into cardiac arrest, and not on the table, they sent her home. The surgical techs were performing surgery. I don't know what a surgical tech is. I don't know what they can do or they can't do. I don't know. They didn't know she was bleeding out? Okay. She ended up going home, collapsing, being rushed to ER, and for that person's death, he created a lot of problems with that woman. Not just for her death, but failed to report it in a timely fashion. How do you know? Not to mention the fact it wasn't him performing the procedures, and there were countless other violations. How do you know that? How do you know that? How do you know that the doctor wasn't the one performing the procedures? How do you know it's the 2... Where are you getting this information from? Are you getting this from hearsay? Are you taking what someone said, who is obviously not the patient because they're dead? Are you taking what the patient said, which also incidentally would be hearsay, although it's reliable hearsay? Are you taking what the patient said to someone else? And now you're at least double level hearsay, if not more than that, and you're just taking that as gospel? And you're reporting on that, man? How are you verifying this? I don't know what happened in that OR. Oh, that's real interesting, because 5 seconds ago, you were saying you did know what happened in that ER. You were saying the surgical techs were the one performing the surgery, but now you're saying you don't know what happened. Do you or don't you, man? Based on what the Attorney General records have indicated, so it was reported, it's very possible that someone else on the staff who is not trained did some part or even major of my surgeries. What? There's a general surgeon in the room and him, and you think some other person did surgeries who isn't licensed to do surgeries? Does that sound like a thing that happened? I mean, again, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying it's impossible. It probably does happen somewhere. But, our skepticism hat. I'm skeptical. It's like, how, where are you getting this from? How are you reaching these conclusions? What are your sources? How good are they? And you're just reporting them as true. And also, incidentally, those people would have been in the room, the surgical techs or otherwise, so they'd be able to testify about what they did or did not do. It sounds like, to my mind, she's courting a lot of false statements of fact. Maybe they're true, man, but it sounds problematic. It's from the family with the pending litigation? Yeah. Okay. Maybe that's reliable then. Maybe that's reliable. If she's getting it from official documents like that, maybe it's reliable. Okay. Fair enough. Moving on. So maybe she's in the clear on that one. I'm not sure how the family necessarily knows that, but the family of the victim or the family of the dead person knows that. But, if that's where she's getting it from, maybe. Okay. Staying her procedure was not a mini tuck. I didn't ask for that. I wasn't told I was going to get that. That's not the standard of care. So you did get a mini tuck? You're saying you got a procedure you didn't ask for. But you were perfectly... All right, so at this point, you're telling me you got a mini tuck, you didn't ask for that, and you were told you were going to get that. But earlier you said you were completely happy with your surgery. What? How ridiculous is it a patient dies at the hands of the doctor and that doctor's not required to disclose that to you? It's the law. But don't you think it's pretty important to know your anesthesiologist has 2 DUIs? Not in particular. But, that's me. I am. Johnson then admits in October 1 podcast she had 18,000 people in this Facebook group digging through records. So she's coordinating all that. She's inviting all that. What defendants intentionally and recklessly omit from their podcast with respect to the third-party death is that they are all unproven allegations. The doctor has not been found liable. If defendants state them as fact to deceive an audience, will reasonably infer that the investigation concluded and our followers have rendered these results factual. Quite possibly. The doctor might be right, he might not be right. But the doctor has a arguable point here, for sure. She's saying the mini tuck isn't the same as the C-scar revision. Yeah, be that as it may, though, Stephanie. And they're mostly the same. Yeah. But be that as it may, whether it's the same or not, or whether she's saying it's the same or not, she also said that she was perfectly happy with her surgery a couple times, including on the Yelp review. So assuming that there is some distinction between a mini tuck and a C-section scar revision, assuming there is a distinction between the two, and assuming that she received the mini tuck instead of the C-scar, she nevertheless was perfectly happy with it. So this is Defendant's statement in the podcast that doctor committed HIPAA violations are false, as the doctor did not use Johnson's full name on Yelp or reveal information. Okay, I believe it. Johnson already revealed herself in the Yelp review. You see, yeah, that's fair. She had already revealed herself. This is the problem, right? Yeah, this is exactly the problem. He can't. Yeah, that's shattered now. The privilege is shattered. You know what you did? You know what you did, patient? You went on Yelp and under your name, you posted about your treatment with the doctor. Congratulations, that information is now in the open. Privilege is gone now. Thanks for playing. So the doctor can say, yeah, she was my patient. Yeah, she got surgery because you said that. So HIPAA, gone. It's gone. It's gone, gone, gone. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Ba-do, 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 do. Okay. The next day, on or about the 2nd, apparently still unsatisfied with the amount of damage she caused, and after specifically identifying the doctor as her target, she posted on Instagram yet again, this time falsely stating in a video, after my botched surgery, which she was perfectly happy with, as you might remember, I learned he had done this to hundreds of women. And this is him speaking. No, it's in a quote. Grabbed both of my breasts with his bare hand and told me he wanted to make me hot. What? You're saying that he grabbed you. You're saying that he did the full honker. And without any suggestion from you or discussing it with you in any way or getting your consent in any way, he just, during the middle of this procedure, or the middle of this consult, he basically just leashed onto both breasts and said he wanted to make you hot. That sounds implausible. That sounds implausible. Not saying it isn't true. It could be true. Some doctors are scumbags. Some people of every profession are scumbags. Could be true. It could also be true that, he was touching you pursuant to things you said. And he might have grabbed your breasts at some point because, I don't know, maybe you brought them up. And yeah, at some point he might have said, because you're not saying they're continuous, by the way, you were there for an ass job maybe? And he said he wanted to make you hot. You were there to have a C-scar removed or whatever the hell it is what you were doing. And he said, I want to help make you look hot. The plastic surgeon. When you're there to have a scar removed or whatever the hell it is you're doing, and he says, I want to help make you look hot. Does that sound like that weird of a statement for a plastic surgeon to make? Again, maybe in context it is bad. Maybe this is Me Too. Maybe he's a lecturer. I don't know. But again, it just seems like the kind of thing a plastic surgeon might say. Geez, Doc, I'm really concerned about this C-section scar I have. Don't worry, I'll take care of that for you. I want to make you look hot. I mean, I don't know. The patient died on the table, resulting from allowing surgical techs to do the procedures. The underlying caption on this post said, "Can someone please forward this to the CA Medical Board and the CA Attorney General?" Why not you? Why not you? Gospel of Comics 4999. I asked, I waited to receive. Thanks for the song, Kurt. No problem. I have some very, very eager witnesses who'd like to speak with you. Why don't you tell the Attorney General about them? What's your problem? Broke my silence today on my podcast, including naming him and the investigations rolling from the patient death. There's probably zero liability in reporting it to the Attorney General. There's probably zero liability in that. It's like reporting something to the police, right? But that's like a protected communication. And if that becomes public through some other means, it's probably okay. So why not you? What liability do you have by saying, hey, Attorney General, or other establishment, hey, Attorney General, hey, Medical Ethics Board, hey, whatever, right? Official government regulator, hey, official government regulator. These horrible things happen to me, and I have it on good faith and belief these other people had horrible things to believe, and these are horrible things, and here's how you can contact them. Why not you? Why are you getting other people to do this? Why not you? You know, you directing them to do it is not causing you to escape any liability. There's no liability difference between I'm doing it and I'm just, you know, if I do a thing or I direct you to do a thing, it's equally liable for me. Makes no difference, man. So why not you? This is all weird. Here she's saying the patient had died on the table, which is not true in any case. That's a false statement. The statements in the Instagram post were patently false and misleading, communicating to any reader or viewer that the doctor inappropriately grabbed Johnson on hundreds of patients, which is not true, or the patient died on his table, which is not true. Moreover, the anesthesiologist who participated in the surgery did not have 2 DUIs, so even that was false. So, you know, to reaffirm and ratify, an interesting word, ratify, the falsity she had previously spread about the doctor on or about the October the 11th. Johnson released a series of posts on Instagram titled PSA Shocking Facts I've Uncovered About the Plastic Surgeon After Fact. I mean, on some level, I kind of hope it's true that without asking, he just randomly decided to grab your breasts, because otherwise none of this makes any sense. I kind of hope it's true, because otherwise nothing makes any sense. I hope it's true for you at a bare minimum, because otherwise you're going down hard. These series of posts each have a heading titled "The Dr. Molvali AA Dr. Laguna" to clearly identify his target. Her targets falsely stated the doctor in 2018 allowed unlicensed medical professionals to carelessly perform liposuction on a woman, which resulted in her death. He's contesting that. You're stating that as a fact. Just moments before surgery, while women are naked, nervous, and vulnerable, he regularly degrades them and intimidates them into additional surgeries. I don't believe that for a second. He's degrading you? Unless you think that the being naked in and of itself is degrading, which, you know, no. Or you think the photographs are degrading, which, no. Why would you want to get photographs in a plastic surgery? Mysteries. Can't think of any reasons. Past complications, infections, and patient's death have resulted in him losing privileges in several hospitals. That appears to be false. He regularly leaves the middle surgery to consult with new patients. I bet you he doesn't. How would that even work? How would that even work from a, like, scrubbing in and scrubbing out standpoint? How would that work? He leaves he leaves surgery, so he's leaving a sterile environment. Presumably, he's not meeting the patients in his full surgeon garb with the gloves on and all the whole shit. So, and even if he is, like, he's now entered an unsterile environment, so he has to re-scrub in and all that stuff and re-put on the uniform. Does that sound like a thing that happened? Sounds a little unlikely to my mind. Not saying it's impossible, just sounds unlikely. He uses threats, intimidations, and lawsuits to silence those who have the right. Sharing a photo of her bandaged scar, claims that this is supposed to be a C-section revision, despite previously declaring that she had a mini-tuck. I don't care. Does she care? Apparently not, because she was happy with it either way. Medical photography requires written consent. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that there was consent. I understand that these things may require consent. I'm not contesting that. What I am saying for an absolute certainty, because I know that their lawyers, for 100% certainty, put it in. I can guarantee you the documents talk about surgery and taking photos. I can guarantee you it's in the consent. Because of course it is, because their lawyers are not idiots. I guarantee you it's in the written consent. I haven't even read it and I know it's there. The October Instagram posts are false, misleading, and further targets the doctor. Within days of filing the original complaint, Johnson apparent rage is escalating her conduct to dangerous levels of harassment. For example, in numerous Instagram posting, including October 13th, Johnson has begun hashtagging the doctor as Dr. Laguna, which is his Instagram name. I'm not sure why, but whatever. And Dr. Molavi simultaneously with promoting her postings and her podcasts. Which directly identifies the doctor, alerts her followers to her personal social page, and directs viewers to the page and followers. Thank you for the 240 of you who are currently watching. I really do appreciate all of you who are here. As a kindly reminder, if you've not subscribed, if you do so, I would really appreciate it. The following day, on or about the 14th of October, Johnson extracted a photograph of the doctor from his personal Instagram page and posted on her page, presumably to taunt him, criticizing how he moves his hand in the video. Johnson followed up with not only naming Doctor and tagging, but also addressing him directly with attacks and threats, stating, among other things, "Are you trying to hide infections, sexual misconduct, horrifical results?" Followed by Dr. Laguna, aka Arian Molavi. All of his past employees he mistreated. They're so happy to finally share what they witnessed. And many of his posts have been taken down. Why, doctor? What are you trying to hide? These are a lot of statements of fact. These are a lot of statements of fact, my friends. And some of these statements seem a little bit incredible in the proper sense of the word, of not credible. Again, they might be true, but they seem unlikely. She's complaining about people being in the room, the very people who could say these things didn't happen. And so forth. And it's like, why do you have such a huge bug up your ass? Unless he literally just grabbed your breast without even asking, or you bringing it up or something. I mean, nothing is making any sense. $10 from Gary Austin 2, throwing out a bit to the Rakita grifters, as his show would not be what it is without all of you. Enjoy your contributions there and your channel. Thank you. I appreciate it. Later that day, Johnson posted on Instagram addressing the doctor yet again, this time speaking up about her religious connection and stating, "Sir, God has asked me to stop you. And I will. You have met your match. I've made it my mission to stop your reign of evil." She has an amazing bug up her ass. I really hope she has the receipts. I hope for her sake she has the receipts. I hope for her sake that she has people that actually are past employees, who actually are telling her horror stories, that are reliable. She might be able to get there. She might be able to get there. I'm not saying that she's guilty of defamation. I am saying this is a lot of factual statements, and this is a lot of potential exposure. And I hope for her sake she has a lot of people who have primary knowledge. Former or current staff. Former or current patients. I hope she has lots of people who have primary knowledge and are relating it to her. Because otherwise, she's in a host of trouble, man. She is in a host of trouble. Johnson does not end there. Later that day, she posted another photo of the doctor with an arrow and a caption of his name to identify his face. The photo shown below also includes 3 other private individuals from his staff who remained anonymous up to this point, and whose faces have been redacted. So she's posting this photo of the staff, the doctor, unlicensed medical tech whom or nurses tell me. Okay, yeah, I mean, whatever. One patient told me this guy walked in on her naked, pointed at his erection and said, "What am I supposed to do with this?" I don't know, man. That seems a bit unlikely to my mind. Not saying it's false. Not making any positive claims here. Not saying what is true or not factually. Just strikes me as a little bit unlikely. The reason it strikes me as unlikely is because these people see naked people every day. Strikes me as a bit unlikely. I mean, you know, they're doctors. They're professional. I mean, I really doubt. It seems a bit unlikely. Could be true. It could all be true. I really hope she has the receipts. I hope she has receipts in spades. The very next day, on or about the 15th, Johnson posted a photograph of the doctor's location, which identifies the building and address to her followers. She then began tagging pages of news outlets such as LA Times, OC Registered, Wondery Media, asking her for contacts of publications to do the story justice. Well, she might not have tagged me. She might not have tagged me, but I'm doing the story, hopefully some justice, because it's like, you know, I don't know, man. The receipts must be glorious. Holly Hawk says, no, it's highly likely. Really? Really? You think this is highly likely? I don't know, man. I mean, we can have a difference of opinion, I guess. Yeah, if she has receipts, it could get very, very ugly. This is true. You know? Okay, Holly. I mean, I just... You think... Am I understanding you think it's highly likely this guy walked in and with an erection, pointed to his dick and said, "What am I supposed to do about this?" I mean... I mean... Okay, I know. I don't know about that one, but if you think so, then okay. That is an opinion that I disagree with. For the next several days, Johnson provided to share more than 10 more postings of alleged stories she heard from victims concerning the doctor, several of which contain false and horrific allegations and graphic images of post-surgery body parts she claimed was the result of the doctor. On information and belief, Johnson posted these allegedly third-party accounts to create incite anger and rage in her audience as people began to believe the third-party accounts were actual facts. So she posted it herself? Okay, that could be an issue. To eliminate any possibility a viewer could even consider her postings as unverified, Johnson proceeded to explain to her viewers that the doctor silenced victims by demanding arbitration or paying them off to settle and demanding NDAs, which is why this very information was not otherwise known. Then how do you know it? Johnson pleaded to her followers, if you're shocked by these stories, please do your part to bring awareness. I'm shocked because it just seems a little unlikely. Tell your followers to check these stories before they expire. I have a lot to say about this. She followed with, I will continue to follow God's plan. Johnson continued with more false statements, including the doctor has a history of suing people to silence them. Or once he grabbed the tube that a patient was intubated with and yanks it out like a sword. The doctor storms off. Yeah, RCS MRC MD says, I'm a nurse. We give 0 Fs, believe me. I believe you, man. I believe it's a same shit, different day. Yeah, I that's what I'm thinking. You know, I'm thinking it's probably not the first time this plastic surgeon has saw, you know, a woman's private parts in the course of his plastic surgery duties. Probably doesn't walk around with constant erections. I'm just gonna guess. You know, yeah. The Yelp statements, Instagram statements, and other statements all collectively referred to as defamatory. She posted on Instagram yet again, telling her followers she was going to make a sign and stand up in Times Square. She has a serious bug up her ass, man. I hope she has receipts. I hope she has lots of receipts. I hope the receipts are very persuasive. She asked her followers to help her choose the text of her sign from 4 options, which were, you shouldn't have to hire a PI to know if your surgeon has killed someone. California allows doctors to continue to practice even after 2 DUIs. My surgeon has 5-star reviews, even though they allow unlicensed medical techs to perform surgeries that result in patient deformities and death. Stop allowing doctors to hide patient death and malpractice case. Shit, man. She is really going for broke on this. She is all in on this, man. Her receipts better be amazing. Of course, any reasonable viewer or reader would understand that each of her options states fact about him, when in fact, each is factually inaccurate. He's never killed someone, never received 2 DUIs, or allowed unlicensed techs to perform surgeries. Yeah. Nevertheless, Johnson led her viewers to believe those allegations and did, in fact, stand in the streets the following day with her sign and documented it. In her Instagram post, she pleads with her audience, help bring awareness if this moves you to take action. She ended with, his name is Dr. whatever, and yes, he's threatening me for speaking out, and no, I'm not deterred. Okay. I mean, you know, I'm not your lawyer, and if you came to me and you said, I want to make these statements, I'd like to know, okay, what is your basis for believing these things? How good is it? How credible is it? You know, preferably from not just one patient. You know, if you're going to make these kinds of statements, you probably want that verified by a couple sources before you start going out and making these kinds of statements. Because as you would anticipate, these kinds of statements are going to ruin someone's career, right? So you probably want more than just one. Probably want that to be verified a couple ways, independently. So I hope the receipts are good, man. The very next day, the doctor's call center at the Plastic Surgery Institute received a death threat, saying, let the doctor know when he leaves today he's going to get shot in the head. This is the first time the doctor's ever received a death threat. Since receiving the death threat, the doctor and his entire family have experienced fear and emotional distress, and they've had to get authorities involved. If she's mentally ill, how would that affect her case? Not much, man. She'd have to be pretty far gone, man. She'd have to be pretty far gone. For civil negligence, man. Oof. Good luck. On several days and weeks, the harassment continued as the doctor received a slew of hate mail from multiple sources stating, you don't deserve to be alive. I can't wait till you get what's coming to you. You're a predator. You deserve to be in jail. Karma's coming for you. You're a pig, murderer, rot in hell, you piece of shit. You'll get what's coming to you. Yeah, all this is kind of predictable. All this is predictable. These are all predictable outcomes from these statements. These are foreseeable. You know, these are foreseeable. You are ginning people up in a major way. Better be good on the receipts. Best receipts ever. Best receipts ever, by the way, would look like a couple statement. It would look like preferably no less than 3 statements, and preferably more than that, from some combination of primary witnesses. By primary witness, we mean people who had surgery on them, or previous staff who were in a first-hand position to know because they were in the room, right? So preferably no less than 3 statements from a combination of these people who can testify, yes, I saw these things, at least in some prior instances. That would be a bare minimum. So if we don't have that, man, we have problems for sure. Incidentally, I am not saying that's sufficient. I'm just saying that's enough to get us through the door of like thinking about it. This is a lot. The doctor also received multiple 1-star reviews from third parties who were not even patients, telling the public, beware, this is dangerous. Stop allowing doctors to practice with all the death and malpractice he has on his resume. Please listen to Chalene Johnson's podcast. During the same time period, Johnson began to insert the wife into the narrative of, well, okay, so now we're bringing the wife into the picture, which makes me wonder why she's not a separate listed plaintiff. I don't know if she intends to bring a separate lawsuit or something, but I'm curious why she isn't in this lawsuit too. Because the wife didn't do anything. The wife is not relevant to this picture. The wife didn't do jack. claiming no one ever stopped this man and the people who worked for him never went to authorities because his wife is an attorney and they all feared legal ramification. What? What? Johnson continued the attack on the doctor's wife with subsequent posts as well, stating things like, no wonder wifey went to law school, job security. And stated after he started his medical practice, she eventually became an attorney. Convenient. She works for him. Do you know that for sure? Do you know that she works for him, or are you just saying that? I mean, maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. I don't know. But do you know that? Immediately following these taunting posts, the doctor's wife became the target of multiple calls and messages through known and unknown third parties, berating her about her marriage and alleged contact as an alleged accomplice to falsified crimes. Falsifying crimes is not a thing an attorney can do. The intimidating and harassing conduct has resulted in fear, anguish, anxiety, and distress from the doctor's wife and entirety family, and now the fear and safety of that of their young children. At this point, I'm feeling kind of glad I had to pay so much money to download these documents. I just, you know, I paid quite a bit of money to get these documents because the state of California's website's not working right now, so I had to get them through a third party who charged me out the nose. But at this point, I'm glad because, damn, man, Lord. On October the 26th, a new unauthorized Instagram account named Dr. Malavi Results, the unauthorized account was created, which begins posting multiple unauthorized photographs and videos of the doctor, doubling down, affirming and republishing several statements and accusations. The unauthorized account also began including videos of the wife and identifying her by name, which had otherwise been private. Johnson began promoting the unauthorized case on her own page from the day of this creation. On information and belief, the unauthorized account is run by defendants. Yeah, that sounds very plausible. Unfortunately, Johnson's attack did not just end with the doctor and his wife. On or about the 27th of October, posted yet again, this time threatening those members of the doctor's staff who cooperate with him are being protected while those who do not go to jail will be implicated and should do the right thing before it's too late. What? Johnson directed the message to one of the staff members who's watching her video, says, I know you're watching and you have a daughter. Wow. On her next post, she revealed pictures of the private employee's face saying, send me a text, I know you're watching. You know, either she has to have really good receipts, or somehow this is all true, even though she doesn't have receipts. Because if it's all true, she wins. But man, this is a lot of stuff. Could be true. Could be true. There are scumbag doctors out there. There are scumbag plastic surgeons out there. There are scumbag professionals of all kinds. It could all be true. It could all be true. But, you know, a little skeptical. Especially given your own statements, you know, Miss Johnson, where you're like totally happy with the surgery. It's the greatest surgery ever. I love my doctor. And then for some reason, a couple days later, that is unclear. You start throwing him way under the bus. It seems a little weird. You know? I will again point out for the like third or fourth or fifth time in this podcast or the stream or whatever it is we're doing, I will point out again that this is being written by the doctor in his voice. So it's okay to be skeptical of these statements. Or let me put it slightly differently. It's very acceptable to assume there's things that he's not mentioning which might be harmful. So there might be true things that he's not mentioning that would be harmful. That's a reasonable assumption. You know, and it's also a reasonable assumption to assume that he's making her out to be the worst that he can get away with. You know, elevating everything she's done. You know, everything here, as I said much earlier, it's most of these things are true but not complete. You know, that's a reasonable assumption going into reading these kinds of things. They're true but not complete. Of course, sometimes they're garbage. That happens too. But it's reasonable to assume it's true but not complete. There are things that he's not mentioning that would harm him, and he's trying to make her look as bad as possible. All right? So there's that. But, you know, this is a lot of stuff she's saying. Send me a text, I know you're watching. Well, that sounds ominous. By the 27th of October, the defendant's course of conduct has been shown to be full-fledged obsession. On the 30th of September, Johnson posted on her Instagram, she's obsessed. She posted another spreadsheet with all sorts of alleged information saying, I know everything about this man. Oof. Sounds like Karen World Boss. I mean, a little bit, man. Information believed Johnson's course of conduct referenced above served no legitimate purpose and was instead made willfully and directly. So this would be the tortious interference part, right? So not only is it false, she's doing it purposefully. So now we need another step. Not only is it false, but she knows, well, whether it's false or true, strictly speaking, she's doing it for unfair advantage. Her motives are corrupt, right? So that she has corrupt motives, which we don't know for sure. I mean, I don't know if we can reasonably infer it to be honest or not. Give me 1 second. I need to take care of something really, really fast. I'll just be right back. Okay. Sorry. Great. Where were we? Yeah, it's a lot. Players believe that unless immediately stopped, Johnson will continue this harassing tirade. On information belief, defendants made the statements knowing their falsity or reckless disregard of falsity for the purpose of harming him both professionally and personally. Now, that's a good question. Is he a public figure? I don't know enough information to know. I don't know enough information for him to know. My assumption would be no. But he does have a social media account, but it might be professional. So it's arguable about whether or not he's a public figure, but my assumption would be no. I mean, it's something they can argue over for sure. So I'm not sure we need to get to this standard, to be honest, but why not allege it anyway? Defamatory statements were made with knowledge, intent, and expectation they'd be published and widely disseminated. That much is, yeah. Instagram followers, yeah. The defamatory statements are a direct attack on profession and placement in false light, causing a reader falsely conclude that dishonest, incompetent, fraud, and assault her. Yep. On information and belief, Johnson's actively pursued and sought communication with several potential and current patients by disseminating statements to them with intent of dissuading them, successfully interfering with several such patients identified as A and B, so he knows particular patients that have been dissuaded. Since this, the medical practice has been damaged, with consultations decreasing considerably, the amount of which will be proven in trial. I wonder if he's offering discounts right now. Now might be the perfect time to get the surgery you've been putting off. I don't know. Since the defendant's statements have suffered distress and have benefited. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Cause of action, defamation. Yeah, we don't need to really go through that, do we? They're false without privilege. They're made negligently and with actual malice, so we're covering both our bases, which, might very well be true. To be quite honest, because the amount of research she apparently has done, like, she would know this to be false, right? So, or she's recklessly disregarding. Yeah, I mean, there's at least suggestions along those lines, I would think. I mean, I'm not saying we're there. It's a hard trigger to pull, but there's suggestions along those lines. Expected them to injure, suffered damages, acted with malice, oppression, or fraud. Unless enjoined, this will happen again. False light. Yeah, that's basically defamation in a different way. Intentional infliction, emotional distress. Interference with prospective advantage. Yeah. Harassment in violation of California code. Sure, why not? So we want actual and compensatory damages, not less than $1 million. That sounds very, very plausible. Exemplary and punitive damages, an injunction. For actual and compensatory damages, for exemplary damages, for a permanent injunction, for harassing, contacting, creating, blah, blah, blah. Pre-judgment, post-judgment at a legal rate, fees, costs, and further relief. So, yeah. Yeah, my friends, I think on the whole, I have to say that this is a fairly persuasive complaint. Again, we don't know it's true. You know, it has to be proven true, but there's a lot here, man. And she has to have a lot of receipts. And unfortunately, to this date, I don't know this is the only legal document that exists from her. Because as I mentioned earlier, the court website is down. So this may or may not be the only thing. It's the only thing I was able to find from a third-party website. So if there's more than this, we'll cover more as soon as we have more. But I'll cover what I have, right? Which is a whole lot of nothing, right? So we have our official answer. We have our official answer, right? So we're skipping all the motions to dismiss, all that crap. So no motions to dismiss today. We're skipping straight to answer. And there's nothing here. There's nothing here. She just has a general denial, and she just has a bunch of affirmative defenses, right? You know, she has the anti-slap, failure to state a claim, that the true or substantially true, no provable false assertion, neither of nor concerning the plaintiff, which, you know, good luck. Not defamatory, immune from internet republication defamatory material. Section 230, no, it's not. Why not throw it in there? But 230 is not going to save your ass. 230 is not going to save your ass. Because you solicited this. You asked for all this. 230 is not going to protect you. You're going down. But why not throw that in there anyway? Lack of knowledge or intent. Lack of negligence. Lack of injury. That's bullshit. Lack of proximate cause. That's pretty bullshit. Lack of failure to plead special damages. Because none of it constitutes libel or slander per se. Yes, it does. Constitutional right of freedom of speech. Lack of actual malice. Good luck. Well, I mean, that's not fair. Actual malice is a hard standard, so, you know, fair enough. Presumed exploratory and punitive damages are disallowed because these are statements of general interest and just concern, and they're constitutionally barred. We didn't act with fraud, oppression, or malice, and therefore punitive damages are not available. Mitigation, you had a duty to mitigate, which I think you did. Contribution of third parties, but these third parties are basically you, so good luck. Avoidable damages, you didn't mitigate. Lack of damages, Uniform Single Publication Act. To the extent they're asserting more than one cause for libel or slander founded on a single publication, you can't do that. Fair enough, but there are a whole bunch of statements from a whole bunch of podcasts, and those are all independent. Statute of limitations, bullshit. But why not throw that in there? Consent, additional defenses, we have insufficient knowledge, and therefore we reserve the right, and blah blah blah. So, like, these are just boilerplate. There's nothing here. There's nothing here. They go into no detail. There are no receipts here. Not to say there aren't receipts somewhere else. There might be receipts somewhere else, but they're not here. They're not even referred to here. You know, there's nothing. These are all just pro forma boilerplate. There's no receipts. There's no response. There's nothing here. There's nothing here. So, I mean, Section 230, Communications Decency Act, Section 230. Communications Decency Act, Section 230 means that you are not responsible for what other people provide on a platform you provide. So, for example, all you wonderful people in the chat right now, I'm not responsible for all the things you're typing because you are on my platform, right? I'm providing a platform. So is YouTube, for that matter. So YouTube is not responsible because they're providing a platform, and I'm also providing a platform for all these wonderful comments and the comments in my chat, right? I'm not responsible for all that. You know, but if I directly solicit it, not like just give me comments, right? If I just say, you know, give me super chats, give me comments, leave your comments, that kind of thing, right? That's not soliciting specific things. Like, she's soliciting specific things, like give me your horror stories about these. She's way more specific than that, so she's soliciting. So Section 230 says you're not responsible for what other people post, but she is. Section 230 is not going to save her. All right, Uncivil Law eats IQ for breakfast. That's very, very kind. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, YouTube is also a platform. They might also publish because they also have their own channel, but for the most part, they're a platform. So we're in roughly the same position. So yeah. Didn't 230 come about in the 90s? Yes, late 90s. 97, 98, I think, if memory serves correctly. Yes. Let's take a look at some super chats and some questions in case I missed any super chats. But yeah, this is not looking real promising so far. All right, I answered all the super chats. Let's take a look at some questions. Stephanie pointed out, if you go into forced mediation, the complaint with the state is dismissed. Okay. $10 from W Colonial Bay. Boy. Colonel Boy. Merry Christmas, sir, you rock, man. Thank you very much. King Erickson says, what's it like to be the best singer on LawTube? And do you think Nick will ever have a sing-off? Stephanie said, I told you it required circus music. Yeah. Oh, it's possible some of us don't know what receipts are. Yeah, by receipts, I just mean proof. Yeah, I just mean proof that she has things that would show that to be true. That's what I mean by receipts. So this would be more specifically sworn declarations. Would be really nice from former or current patients or former or current staff who have primary knowledge. Yeah, so that's all the things. And yeah, if you wear a t-shirt to a jury that says, ask me about jury nullification, you're going to have a bad time. And then, Merry Christmas, sir, you rock, my man. Well, thank you very much, W. Colonial Boy. I appreciate it for the super chats. Yeah, so this is a lot, and she has nothing. She has nothing in her answer. So far, man, it is not looking good at all. She has nothing. Yeah. All right, I'm going to sign off for now. But I hope you've liked this, and we'll definitely keep our eye out for further things. Because this sounds like it might be one to follow, but it might be a really short one, depending on how things go. So if you've liked this channel, please give it a like. Remember to hit the like button. It really helps with the engagement. The YouTubes like it. Please hit the subscribe button if you aren't already. And please tell your friends. If you would do me a solid, everyone who's watching, and you'd go on Twitter and just post the link to my channel and say, please subscribe to this man, I'd appreciate it. See, that would be me directing action, but I'm directing action for a good thing. If you go on Twitter and just give the link to my channel and say, please subscribe to this man, I'd really, really appreciate it. And so we can get to 50,000. And also you can join our locals and join our Patreon. $5 from Osborne, nothing but love, brother. Merry Christmas. Thank you very, very much, all. Hope we hit 50,000 subscribers soon. We're well on our way. Until later, my friends, I hope all is well, and cheers and goodbye.